There was melee at this local play place tonight at 6 o'clock on Reaction News. Good evening, ladies and gents. We go live with this officer. Sir, can you tell us what happened, please?
It was really trivial.
Well, wow. Tell us what you really think.
Police say in the latest fight here, a 16-year-old girl provoked an adult at a birthday party.
As silly as that sounds, the whole incident started over someone asking for a cigarette.
Friends tried to break up the fight.
The juvenile didn't take too kindly to it and began throwing salt and pepper shakers, climbing on tables, pushing children, pushing other adults. When you have people behaving in that fashion, we just can't accept that.
The best advice anyone ever gave me was 2 words. You can't. And you know what my response was? 2 words. Watch me.
Get this screen up and running efficiently and effectively. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Black and Blue. The podcast is just for you, where we go live weekly. And when we go live with a special guest who's either a first responder or in law enforcement. And it doesn't matter if they're rookie, seasoned, or retired. And we talk about their trainings, their experiences, and their publications. And we're not going to fall short today. I have an exciting show lined up for you today. And I'm sorry that it's recorded. I know you guys like the live shows. I like to interact with you guys as well. But I had to record this one, so I had something for you. Of course, it's done pre 9/11, pre-Thursday, but I got something going on the Thursday that hopefully, if I'm allowed to, I'll be able to bring to the table too, and we'll see what that topic matter or what the event is. It's an event, actually. I'm excited for it. I can't wait for it. I'm hoping it'll make more sense afterward. If not, I'll explain what it is. If I can't explain what it is, I'll show you pictures or video. All right. But besides all that, let's get into it, because I got a tremendous show and I'm excited to get into it. But I got to introduce myself. I'm your motivational speaker, your empowerment coach, your author, and your favorite baker's favorite baker. It's Coach Clee coming at you. You know, you can find me in the Crimes Code Ecclesiastics 302. I'm the coldest code switching detective, and yes, you spell my name CLEE, which means continuing law enforcement edutainment, because we entertain and we educate at the same time. And yes, they call me King 360, and we're going to talk about it a little bit in this live here. But 363 miles with a 60-pound weight vest, the endorphins will have you going crazy. You'll feel like a new person. All right. But thank you guys for tuning in. We go live weekly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you tag, like, share, tell your friends about us. If you want that shout out, you're not really going to get the shout out that you're looking for, because of course this is recorded. But make sure you put your name and where you're from in the comment section. If you have comments, make sure that you put them in the comment section as well, because they will be addressed. We're streaming on 4 platforms on Facebook. We'll be uploaded on Spotify. We're 2 pages on YouTube, and what am I forgetting? LinkedIn. We're also streaming on LinkedIn right now. So depending on where you're at, I may or may not be able to see the comments depending when they're posted. But make sure you kind of keep the engagement up, keep the tag, liking, and sharing up. I appreciate all of you. I love all of you. I thank you guys that you're here. It's a special day that we're here. Of course, this is a 9/11. So you saw the tribute in the beginning. You got to see the youngsters a little bit in one face feed, and then you got to see them evolve into the adults. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how a little bit touch on how September is self-deletion prevention month. Going to talk about wonderful things. I got a great guest, Eric Basek. You guys may know him. If you haven't heard of him beforehand, you're definitely going to know about him tonight. All right. But this platform is sponsored by One Way Publishing. One Way Publishing sponsors the Sergeant Be Safe commercial cartoon that you saw in the beginning about the melee at the play. That's one of my favorites, so I had to play that one for today. It also sponsors this platform right here, Black and Blue. The podcast is just for you. And not only that, it's a production company. It's a production company where I got to write I lost count. I think I have another book that's almost ready to drop. I haven't dropped it yet, but I got 5 books that are hard copy, 2 digital, and 1 in the weights right now. So One Way Publishing is the book publishing company just for you. You know, their motto is they can turn a mere thought into a book that's bought. So if you ever wanted to write your own book, that's the way to go. All right. We're going to be talking about a bunch of wonderful things that One Way Publishing has produced. If you ever wanted to write your book, workquickly.com. It's in the description box as well. Hopefully it'll be in the comment section. Of course, not as of right now. And if you wanted to do voiceovers, which pretty much I don't really do the voiceovers for Sergeant Be Safe, to be honest. But if you wanted to be a guest on the show, workquickly.com, and we'll schedule that thing for you. I'm excited for this month of September. We got a nice lineup of individuals. I try and bring you people that are interesting, done wonderful things, and moving the needle forward and humanizing the badge, not only in law enforcement, but in the first responder community in itself. All right. So we're going to switch gears. Where are we going right now? We're going to go into the 9/11 tribute. All right. We got the 9/11 because 9/11 happened. I remember most people say I come from the Gen X generation, barely a Gen X. I'm in the tail end of the Gen X, right before millennial. I'm in that little weird gap. But I remember when 9/11 happened, it was after I was already out of the Army and before I became a police officer. And I remember the consensus going around where everyone thought that an event like that divided us or scared us and made us angry, which it did somewhat. It was very scary, and a lot of people were very angry. But I know there were tons of people that were ready to go into the police academy, become volunteers, as in firefighters or medics, EMTs, nurses. I know people who were ready to enlist almost immediately, sign their name on the dotted line, and they basically were saying that, you know, if you come smack us in the face, you may hurt for that minute, but we're going to gather our hand together and ball it up in the fist, and we're going to attack back. And we had that same mentality all the way through. And now that it's going on, 25 years ago now, where a lot of the individuals that have came into the profession is phasing out or retiring, have already gone on. The ones that were there have some have passed away, ground zero, some have passed away, or some are coming up on their retirement now. We had the special guest was at ground zero when he was at a very young age. It inspired him so much that he had to have a lifetime full of servitude. It's the seeing where the world has evolved in 25 years is dynamically, it's interesting, and it has its pros and cons. But it was a kind of pivotal moment that changed the United States, the Americas, where we actually worked together in unison during the aftermath of it. It was a nice time. It was a nice place. I'm not saying the event was nice. The event brought us together. So I'm giving it a tribute to the event and those that it inspired and those that have lived in a life of servitude, because that was part of the catalyst in them. All right. We're going to talk about that. We're going to jump right into that. We're going to jump right into that right now because each segment is going to be fun. It's going to be timely, but it's going to be fun. So stand by. All right. Here we go with the tribute.
Call to resilience, remembering 9/11 and our duty to serve. Introduction. On September 11th, 2001, our world was irrevocably altered as the tragic events of that day claimed the lives of 2,977 innocent people. As we gather to reflect on the legacy of that fateful morning, we are reminded not only of the lives lost, but also of the indomitable spirit of resilience that emerged from the ashes of destruction. Generation X, you were the boys and girls who witnessed this cataclysmic event unfold, and it ignited within you a fierce determination to rise up and serve your country. You transformed from young dreamers into first responders, law enforcement officers, firefighters, EMTs, and military veterans, embodying the spirit of those who refuse to be defeated. In this moment of solemn remembrance, let us honor the sacrifices made and recognize the vital role we play in safeguarding the future for generations to come. The call to serve. In the aftermath of 9/11, we felt compelled to act, to respond with courage and resolve. The events of that day were a wake-up call, reminding us that we are not just passive observers in our world. We are the architects of our destiny. We stepped up to protect our communities, vowing to safeguard the ideals of freedom and opportunity that define our nation. As first responders, we worked tirelessly, often at great personal cost, to save lives and restore hope in the face of overwhelming adversity. Our commitment to service became a testament to our belief that we could be the fist that struck back against evil, rather than allowing ourselves to become mere victims of circumstance. The sacrifices made yet, this path was not without its trials. In our pursuit of the greater good, we made profound sacrifices. We relinquished our health, our peace of mind, and sometimes even our financial stability, all for the sake of ensuring a better future for those who would come after us. The burdens we carried were heavy, but we bore them with pride, knowing that we were standing tall in the bridge of time, committed to keeping our nation safe from the abyss of despair. We did not allow the darkness to envelop us. Instead, we chose to be the light that guided others through the storm. The reality of life's challenges. As we reflect on our journey, we must confront the reality that life is not merely a series of triumphs. It is fraught with challenges that can leave us battered and bruised. The world is often a harsh place, and it can knock us to our knees if we allow it. But remember this, it is not the blows we receive that define us, but how we respond to them. We must remind ourselves, it ain't how much pain you can give, it's about how much pain you can take and keep moving forward. This ethos encapsulates the essence of our shared experience. We have faced adversity, but we have emerged stronger, more resilient, and more determined to pursue our dreams. Embracing our worth. In this pursuit, we must recognize our worth. If you know what you are capable of achieving, do not let anyone tell you otherwise. No one has the right to dictate the limits of your potential. You have earned the right to pursue your dreams, to act on your aspirations, and to strive for greatness. It is your duty to listen to your instincts, to push forward even when the odds seem insurmountable. Cowards may point fingers and place blame, but you are not that person. You are better than that. You are the embodiment of resilience, courage, and hope, going the extra mile. Remember, true strength is found in going that extra mile when you feel like giving up. It is in those moments of perseverance that we discover our true selves. I applaud each and every one of you for daring to dream, for running toward your aspirations, and for believing in yourselves. Life is about stretching beyond our comfort zones, seeking opportunities for self-improvement, and embracing the challenges that lie ahead. Each of you has the potential to achieve greatness, and I stand before you today to affirm that it is possible. No one could have convinced me that I would one day author a book titled, Live Your Dreams. Yet, here I am, a testament to the power of believing in oneself. The spirit of America. As we gather to honor the memory of those we lost on that tragic day, let us also celebrate the spirit of America. The resilience of our great nation was tested on 9/11, but we emerged stronger than ever. Terrorist attacks may shake our buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of our resolve. We are the brightest beacon of freedom and opportunity in the world, and we will not allow the darkness to extinguish our light. The bravery of our rescue workers, the compassion of those who rush to help, and the unity displayed in the face of hatred exemplify the very best of America. So here's to the Army and Navy and the battles they have won. Here's to America's colors, the colors that never run. May the wings of liberty never lose a feather. In the years that followed, we witnessed countless acts of heroism and kindness that illustrated the best of humanity. Whether it was a firefighter bravely entering a burning building, or a volunteer offering comfort to those in need, these moments of selflessness became the fabric of our nation's resilience. We learned that true strength lies not only in physical prowess, but in the capacity for compassion and empathy. We have been the stewards of this legacy, It is your responsibility to carry forward the lessons learned, to teach the next generation about the values of courage, integrity, and perseverance. You embody the belief that while we may face adversity, we rise not as individuals, but as a collective, a tapestry woven together by shared experiences and unwavering resolve. Your commitment to service and your willingness to stand firm in the face of challenges inspire hope and remind us that, together, we can overcome anything. So, as we honor the memory of those we lost, let us also celebrate our shared journey, a journey marked by sacrifice, resilience, and an enduring commitment to building a brighter future for all. Together, we can ensure that the light of freedom continues to shine brightly, illuminating the path for generations yet to come. Together we will rise, we will serve, and we will build a future worthy of the sacrifices made. Going in one more round when you don't think you can. That's what makes all the difference in your life. Let us embrace that spirit as we move forward, united in purpose and unwavering in our resolve.
Get the full page. Yeah, man. I think that was pretty good. I like that one. That was one of the favorite ones that I think I've composed itself. That doesn't get you inspired or give you a little tribute to those that actually lived it and experienced it, or those that are curious about it, then I don't know what will. I think that was a good tribute. If you heard a few references in there from the Rocky Balboa movie, shout out to them. You heard a few references in there from Big Trouble in Little China, you know. I heard a few references also from Les Brown speeches, you know, some of the things that I motivated me or encouraged me or just kind of give you that pump up that you need, kind of incorporated in that that showcase as well. So, you know, it's one of those things. I hope it means something to you. I hope it's a tribute. I hope you guys liked it. I hope it gives you a little bit of understanding. But therefore, that's going to be posted on the page. I'll probably have it posted on the Black and Blue YouTube page right around the time that this is posted. So it may already be there by the time you get to see it. It'll be the whole full 6-minute clip. But changing gears, going to our still on the same pace, going to our guest. He's got his own YouTube pages as well. I'll explain it here in a minute, but one of them is the Stay Safe Foundation. And one of the things he likes to do is he interviews, he's written books. He interviewed former or current first responders, military, law enforcement that have actually been through some trauma. And he incorporates all that, and he wants to get to the nexus or the thread on the what's the similarities between the traumas and how if they're all somewhat similar to the foundation or to the core, how can we treat them, or what can we do? What can we do about that? I don't know. It's beeping. It does this like every once in a while, probably telling me that I'm on point. I think that's what it probably is. So there we go with that. But I'm gonna see if we can screen share and show some of one of his YouTube videos. It is staysafefoundation.org or Stay Safe Foundation on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to the page. Let me get this here. Yep. See if we can play this here. Can you guys?
At this point, he leans in a little bit further, and you can see here. Now, that last round, he goes bam, point range, and puts that last round right into my skull.
Frontwards, backwards, and just engine screaming. My siren's still screaming because I never shut them off either.
And at that point, I was like, oh shit, did I lose my legs too? Because I could feel bones dragging on the ground on my right leg.
If Tony knew you and understood you, Tony knew him and he let his guard down for that split second and it cost him his life.
My mag went empty. I had to, I kind of like just let my body weight fall back down off my right arm. reached down, found my mag pouch, took out another mag, dropped my mag, was literally putting the other mag in, and I felt a thump on my shoulder.
Those guys that act like they've never been scared and they go through this awful shit, like you're either lying or you're stupid at that point. You are.
True strength is vulnerability.
Exactly. There's a ton of strength in that. And being able to display that, I think, shows, like, I know that it sucks that somebody might make fun of you and say you've got PTSD and blah, blah, you can't say. Yeah, it sucks.
I'm not a fucking medic, you know what I mean? And you look good because I still have my fucking gloves on and my beanie and my thing, and he was just like, you look good. And he did like a little fucking smile, man. And then that made me smile. You could just see in his eyes. That was it. Like, that was it. Like they went mad. Like they were shiny no more. Like, I know what it means when someone's dead. Like, you can see it right in their fucking eyeballs. Like, I know what that saying means. Fucking hate being alive in this house. And they didn't put none of that in that article. I remember one time I cried so much. And I felt like, what the fuck is wrong? Like, I hated being a little boy around these people. Life sucked. And I remember the cops looking for me because my mom couldn't find me. I was just fucking done. I was like, this sucks. And I wanted to die.
The goal is to get people to realize that they're not crazy, that there are other people that have experienced similar things. There are support groups, and they can't do it alone, and that there are people that will help, us included. And that's the plan.
Oh, let me go back. Hold on 1 second.
Bone that could be broken from.
There we go. All right. I'm sorry about that. Yep. All right. Yep. I wanted to give you guys a little sample of his page, his channel. Is very heart-wrenching. It's very inspiring. I mean, I got his book, Lessons in Cadence. We talk about that briefly during the interview as well. You got to see a couple clips from his interviews and seeing what it's like, realistic experiences from first responders that were in traumatic situations and found the willpower to overcome. You can hear and learn from all their stories, either in the book itself or go to his page, his channel and watch the videos. But I'm going to jump right into it. Here's his interview. Sorry, I'm stuttering right now because it's heart-wrenching. You can't watch something like that and not live this life and not feel for these individuals. And so my kudos to them, hats off to them. But right now, Eric Basek, I'm going to bring him to the stage. I'm glad I got to get him on here. I've been excited to have him on here. We've been reaching out back and forth, finally able to get the recording done. But he was inspired. He was at ground zero at 9/11 when he was 16 years old. Ground zero, ladies and gentlemen. And from that, he got to see the awe-inspiring help, the service that boots to the grounds of individuals who would not leave, who would not go home, and he knew that he wanted to be a part of that, and he knew from that moment on that he was going to be in the life of service. He's been in the life of service as an EMT, firefighter. He's been local law enforcement. He's been federal law enforcement. He's also U.S. Coast Guard officer. He's also owned and operated his very own gym for physical fitness. He believes physical fitness is a key to help get rid of some of the depression and other things that it leads to. He speaks to vets and he works with vets. He also speaks to law enforcement officers. I call him the real life G.I. Joe. He's got his own YouTube channel for a fan of them. He'll just explain that as well. And of course, I was just talking about the Stay Safe Foundation and .org, and I'll make sure they're in the description box and also in the comment section as well. So make sure you guys check them out. But enough about me. I've been talking long enough. Let's get into this interview. That's why you guys are here. Stand by. And we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Black and Blue. I got a special guest right here. I hope you guys are ready for him because I know I am. I'm excited for today's show. I can't wait to bring him up. I got Eric Basek here. Eric, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Boy, that mic goes live, and you were like, bam, right on with it.
Yeah, right on, and still stuttering, but still having a lot of fun doing it. Eric, I appreciate you making time to come on the show and engaging us in conversation. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm kind of a run-of-the-mill American first responder. I grew up in I guess you could say lower class, a working family for sure. My mom was a waitress. My dad worked for the state, and he was a first responder. Like, that's my number one childhood memory, is that even though we really didn't have much in the way of money and clothes, like, my parents still, my father especially, still devoted all of his free time to serving the community as a firefighter, police officer, and EMT. So that really put me on a track where I didn't have much of a choice but to wear a uniform of some sort. As I grew up, I became an EMT on a first aid squad and a police officer, and eventually a member of the military. And later in life, ended up pursuing entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is mainly what I do now, and I maintain reserve service with the Coast Guard.
Gotcha. So it sounds like a lot, man. In my opinion, you sound like a real live G.I. Joe.
I like to tell people the Coast Guard is military adjacent. I love the Coast Guard. I think it's a great service. G.I. Joe adjacent, maybe.
Well, whatever you want to label it as, I mean, you're still in the first responder community and you're doing tremendous things. Hats off to you. Kudos.
Thank you. It feels good. It gives me purpose for sure.
Absolutely. And I know you got started at a young age, EMT and running with firefighter. What age did you actually get the spark, and why did you want to become a first responder? I know you already talked about your dad, but what gave you the spark?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people that live in cities don't realize that most of the country is supported by volunteers. You live in a city, you have a paid first responder, but where I grew up in Sussex County, New Jersey, you got into a car accident in the middle of the day, and it was a really bad car accident. It was volunteer firefighters and volunteer EMTs who were showing up in an ambulance to take you to the hospital. And that means delayed service times and higher stress, higher risk, because the police officers are going to show up first, but they have minimal first aid experience. So you're really waiting for EMTs, paramedics, and firefighters. And so that's what I grew up doing. Starting on a first aid squad. My father was on the squad. And he had at the time, I think they still have, they're like beepers. And this beeper he'd wear all day. When it would go off, we knew there was an emergency. It was exciting and fun, even though first response is both exciting and horrible at the same time.
True.
It was exciting to see him run out the door and go and then come back and tell me, oh, this happened or that happened. It really seemed like a foregone conclusion that I was going to follow in his footsteps. There's no doubt that is the spark. And for me, it began at 15. At 15 years old, you were able to volunteer. And you were mostly a gopher. You were getting the oxygen. You were lifting the stretcher. But you were doing things like that. And then at 16 is the earliest age you can become an EMT. I think within 2 months of my 16th birthday, I had passed the EMT test. And then I started serving. And it's so interesting in hindsight as an adult now in my 40s. At 16 years old, you don't need anybody else on a volunteer squad but the driver. So the driver could have no first aid experience. At 16, you could be certified as an EMT, and you could be called to somebody's house to deliver a baby.
Wow.
And I can't imagine being a 35-year-old woman delivering a baby, and this 16-year-old high school sophomore shows up, doesn't have his driver's license yet, and he's the guy there. And that was me. That was my early experience the first 5 years from 16 to 21. I was the guy showing up with anything that you can imagine for first aid service. And that's how it really got started for me.
Gotcha. That is pretty cool when you put it in perspective like that, to actually be a teenager without your driver's license. You're bringing life into this world. You're like, batter up.
Well, it's funny you say that, because we talk about, I was thinking about this in preparation for today. Your experience as a professional first responder, it begins in synchronization with trauma. So the trauma that you experience begins the very first day. And so you mentioned bringing life into the world. What a joy. The greatest thing in the world is delivering babies. It's so cool, right? But But I remember the first time I did CPR, I also did not have a driver's license, and I was 16. I remember the house, I remember the location, I remember doing it with my father. My father and I were rotating between compressions and resuscitate with the breath. And it was an elderly gentleman. It was somebody's grandfather because the grandkids were there, and somebody's father because the daughter was there. At 16, I'm both bringing life into the world and also trying to keep it in the world, and ultimately most of the time failing. And so it's like that professional training begins in cadence with the trauma that begins. It's an interesting journey for sure, a difficult one.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of things that are tremendously true. Being a first responder is exciting, but it comes with tons of trauma. The younger you are, the more you may not know how to process it, or you actually want to accept it because you want to be encultured in the environment. But then after a while, it just weighs heavy on you. One thing that resonates with me, there's something that you said, a lot of things with trauma and trauma dumping or with PTSD or anything like that, you like to actually focus on working out that kind of alleviate some of the trauma, the mental drain, the dump. I know you can explain it better, but I'm processing as I'm talking about it.
This is a lifetime. I'm only in my 40s, but a lifetime of experience has brought me to the realization that healing from trauma requires three really important things: people, purpose, and fitness. And its importance is in that order, but the application is in the reverse order. Right? It's extremely difficult to find really good people. It just is. And when I mean really good, I mean people that you call to celebrate wins with and that you call to talk about losses. Honestly, the win thing is sometimes harder because, let's say for me as an entrepreneur, I'm making more money I've ever made in my entire life. Who do I celebrate that with without them feeling like there's a competition or jealousy or what? That's really hard. Sometimes people are actually happy to hear about your trauma because it brings you down to their level. So finding good people is very difficult. And that's why it's the most impactful. On the opposite end of the spectrum, fitness is incredibly impactful, but also incredibly easy to do because if fitness isn't, it's not like go to Venice Gold's Gym on the beach and like be Arnold. Like that's obviously my dream, but you know, going out, grabbing a rucksack, putting it on your back and walking for 3 miles, that's something you can do in solitude by yourself, and it will have an immediate and biologically measurable change in your mood. So those three things to me, people, purpose, and fitness, are critical that I've discovered both through my own experience and anecdotally working with veterans, primarily veterans, for dealing with trauma, healing and dealing.
Right. And I promise you folks, we did not have this conversation. Those of you that follow the show, I call myself King 360 because I bought a 60-pound weight vest. I have a 3-mile trail where I throw it on. I've got the headphones on. I'm either listening to a podcast or listening to music. And I'm telling you, the 3 miles with 60 pounds, it is a game changer. I mean, you feel like you accomplished something at the end of it. The endorphins are really going crazy. You instantly see and feel the effects because you're going to feel the effects, especially the next day. But you really feel like you accomplished something. I totally get it. It is a literal breath of fresh air.
Yeah, and you can do it at any moment, at any time of day, pitch black, during the day, by yourself. It doesn't require anything but the motivation, which is often the difficult part, to just get out of your chair.
Right. So when you first became a police officer, what are some experiences that you may have had that shaped you into a position that you're in right now?
I would say it's a continuum. It really began as an EMT. It really began. And especially for me, I was a 9/11 responder. So everybody, you get that question, where were you when 9/11 happened? I was at Ground Zero. I was there the night the towers fell, maybe 8 o'clock at night, only hours after the towers fell. That for sure shaped my outlook on first response and the world. It's such a shame that it takes trauma to get people to step up, but first responders, they're waiting for the trauma. They don't need the trauma to step up. They're ready to go. I'll never forget walking in between the buildings that were still standing. Many of them, like a couple of the towers, they ended up bringing down because they were so badly damaged. And I remember turning a corner in between the buildings and I saw, like, I don't know, in my mind, it was like 100 folding chairs. And in the folding chairs were police officers, firefighters, and first responders sleeping uncomfortably in these chairs, just exhausted from work. And I just never forget the feeling of I really want to be a part of this. These people, I had no doubt that if they had to, they would have stayed there and slept in that chair until the job was done. That experience in particular shaped what I felt about this calling for first response. A lot of people, when they retire, say, I miss the clowns, not the circus. and veterans will say, I didn't fight for the cause. You fight for your country, but it's like I fought for the guy or the girl to my left or to my right. And it's that bond that you have with your peers that is unlike anything else that I think civilians could experience.
Thank you for sharing that as well. I bet that's a tough memory that they'll go through, but the camaraderie that you get from the suffrage of going with your battle buddy next to you, whether you're military, law enforcement, firefighter, whatever first responder job that you're in, when you go through that trauma that you're running toward, not running away from, and you're doing it because the guy or gal next to you, they're running the same direction, you feel obligated that you still have the fear, you overcome the fear with the courage, and you're still able to perform and do what's necessary. Even in the middle of all this chaos, you're there to stick it out until the storm is over. It's a weird feeling. It's a weird process. It's a weird dynamic to understand, but it's a first responder thing.
There's so many things to unpack because we live for it. We love it. At the same time, you have all this trauma. And I think in law enforcement in particular, we tend to pretend that it doesn't bother us. I think we've gotten so much better with veterans with dealing publicly and speaking out loud about trauma. But I still think we're stuck 100 years ago with police officers. We just bury it deep down inside and never bring it up again, right? And we tend to do that. And, the feeling of camaraderie, the bonding that we have with the people around us, not only do we experience the trauma of a career, but when we retire, we experience a great trauma of loss.
Yeah.
Because we lose that connection to our coworkers. I don't blame anybody. I just think humans, what we prioritize is our family and our household. But it's like when somebody retires, it's 6 months, 9 months, and the phone stops ringing. Your coworkers stop calling you to check in on you. You stop hanging out with them. I don't blame them. We all have so much in our lives to focus on. It's hard to create a spreadsheet of all of your retired friends and be like, I got to check in with Eric, see how he's doing. It's been 9 months. We just don't do that. And so that thing that we spend a whole lifetime loving and dealing with is suddenly gone. And even if you've never been blown up, you've never had something really traumatic where people like, it's obvious, oh, this guy probably has PTSD, who's blown up. You could have gone 25 years, never been injured in law enforcement, and then you leave. And the greatest trauma of all is the actual loss of the uniform and of the identity.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult.
Yeah, very much so. Speaking, we are in fashion with 9/11, and we're in the month of September now. A lot of individuals that were on the job like yourself during the actual day, the day in question, ground zero, and the day it happened also, I know there were a lot of younger kids, I would say, that were motivated to become first responders because of the incident, wanting to help and have purpose. Now we're 25 years later, and some of the individuals who were first responders have already retired out, and now the ones that became first responders around that time are getting ready to retire or have already. We're still in that phase where they're retiring or coming up to the wall of it. Speaking with vets, first responders, law enforcement, it's hard to unpack all those years that you kept that suppressed and now coming out. And then that's when I had a few guests on the show that had the nightmares after they retired. They can't sleep. They get into bad habits. They don't know what to do with themselves. Before you had purpose, you had the camaraderie with those that you work with. And now it's all of a sudden gone. The job still continues on. Therefore, you feel alienated and they don't know how to unpack that because they aren't a part of the culture per se anymore. What would you say let me put it this way. Have you spoke to anyone that has gone through those issues or nightmares, or what would you say to that person right there or soon to be right there?
Yeah, virtually everybody I know that loved the job and took it seriously because, obviously not everybody does. No, it's not a job of perfect people. But the majority of people that got into it for the right reasons and spent a whole career doing it, they all struggle with the retirement. In my experience, they all struggle with it. And I find that people that deal with it the best It's that people, purpose, and fitness, right? So they tend to be physically active, which biologically releases endorphins and does all this stuff inside that you can't see. And what does that lead to? It leads to you looking better, feeling better. And then when you look better, you feel better, you carry yourself better. And because of that, you can meet people and interact with people. Purpose is that next most important thing because you've lost it. And so now you have to find it again. And if you don't find it again, the fitness will only get you so far. First, you're doing the fitness because it feels good and you're doing it for you. But then it's like, why am I doing this? I find the people that already have that second career in mind or that second activity in mind, or that they have the plan for what, if I ask a guy, what are you going to do when you retire? And he's like, I have no idea. I'm worried about that person. Yeah. What are you going to do once you retire? For people that are already physically fit or engaging in fitness, that's got to be number one at their list for what to do. I joined the Coast Guard because I left law enforcement and I missed wearing a uniform so much. I missed serving. And if the Coast Guard didn't have a program for me, I joined at 37. I went to boot camp at 37. I went to OCS at 41. If I didn't have that, I'd be a firefighter, EMT, or paramedic. Right. Because I have not yet figured out what to do when that chapter is totally closed. And to be totally honest, it scares me. I have a business, it does very well. If I have to hang up the Coast Guard uniform, I feel like I have no other choice but to find a way to serve, because I have not yet figured out how to live without serving. Right. I think that is the critical necessity for people near the age of retirement, to figure out what you're going to do afterwards, because it was such a big part of your life. You might tell people, I don't need to serve anymore, but I don't know if I believe it.
Exactly. I know. And that goes to my next point as well. Thank you for explaining that. Thank you for being real and raw. You can see the emotion coming through in the way that you explain that. And it's very true. Law enforcement officers, especially around COVID in the year 2020, you saw the quiet quitting, those that could retire, close to retire, or could retire, had mass exodus. There are a lot of good officers, a lot of experienced officers, or first responders for that point, have left, and because of the culture and because of the narrative perceived nationally. Have you ever been on the job where the level of burnout was so overwhelming that you didn't know your next move, if you should let it go and try something else, or continue on and watch things get befuddled, where the slippery slope of negativity takes you downhill?
Yeah, unfortunately, a number of times. In DC, we handled protests a lot. I worked for an agency that has gotten a lot of press lately from Trump, but we handled all the protests in DC, and that was really difficult. I hated them because you were labeled, whatever the cause was, you were the enemy. So if the cause was like we're protesting war in Iraq, you were a baby killer. If it was women's rights, you were a sexist. If it was whatever it was, you standing on the line represented what they were protesting against. I don't care what people say. Like, oh, ignore the comments, whatever. That's virtually impossible. I'm not that guy. I think many first responders get into law enforcement because they're empathetic. So when somebody attacks you personally, you're not stone-faced. Protests for me were always extremely difficult. The second most difficult thing for me is the culture of law enforcement. If you can find a great agency, never leave them, for no matter what money, no matter what, because you definitely have toxic culture in law enforcement, and it is pervasive. When I left law enforcement, I started to get into teaching, and I taught defensive tactics all over the country. I've been to most states, worked with all sorts of agencies, big, little. And what was cool about that is what I discovered is police officers are the same in every state. My guess is if I were to go international, it'd be the same every country of the world.
Wow.
I felt like they were all the same. You have a group of people that just want to serve. At the same time, for many agencies, you also have a group of people that are in it for themselves. They're in it for the promotion, the rank, the authority, and it can create a very toxic environment. Unfortunately, I was part of a toxic environment near the end of my career. It's pretty much why I left. In hindsight, I think I would have handled it a lot different. I think I would have just been tried to have been the quiet stoic until it passed, because it did eventually pass in that department. But it was really hard on me. My wife had a miscarriage. She blamed the job. It was a combination of all of that toxic. It wasn't the trauma from serving people. It was the trauma from working with toxic administrators that brought me to one of the lowest points of my life.
I'm sorry to hear all that. Trust me, I get it. I know. Interviewing a lot of first responders on here, I agree with you 100%. No matter who's on here, it seems like first responders at some point are all the same. Those are the same driving factors of negativity that everyone says, that the culture itself within the department or within the agency. That's the reason why most of them leave or are fed up with the job and just get pissy with it. And it's a shame to be that way, because again, we all get in here to serve and want to leave the place, the department, the township, neighborhood, city, the world a better place than before we got there. And that's our usually most responders' mental goal.
Yeah, and there was no Jocko in 2012. He was in Iraq, I think. I didn't have the book Extreme Ownership. I wasn't reading at that time. I was so young, in my mid-20s. I wasn't reading leadership books. I wasn't reading John Maxwell or Jim Rohn or Tony Robbins. And you know, if I could give advice to my younger self or anybody in the early stages of the career, seek personal growth on your own without direction from other people. Those tools that Jocko gives you in books like Extreme Ownership and John Maxwell gives you in his leadership books help you handle those situations, because they exist in every career field. You just have the added trauma of the actual job itself in law enforcement, in the military. Equip yourself with the mental skills, the psychological skills to deal with a shitty boss when you have one, right? Because you're going to have them in all sorts of jobs. I didn't have those skills and I wasn't acquiring them at the time. Since then, I have been working very hard to acquire them so I can be more flexible when life demands.
Speaking of self-discipline and being self-taught, I know that you've done many different disciplines, work for agencies, whether federal, local, military, and not only that, you were just discussing writing a book, and one of the lessons in cadence, you see it scrolling below. This is very important, especially for newer or younger officers, because it talks about the trauma and how to move on from it. Is there anything that resonated with you, especially for lessons in cadence, that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I would actually say it's the through line of every story. If you watch a movie, like a romantic comedy, right? A romantic comedy is what? Boy meets girl, boy's an idiot, girl is stubborn, maybe she's dating somebody else, something's keeping them apart, funny stuff happens throughout the whole movie, they end up together.
Right.
Every romantic comedy, essentially the same. I found that interviewing those police officers and veterans, that trauma is the same. The details are different. Somebody is sexually assaulted or raped when they're younger. Somebody gets into a shooting. Somebody is shot. Somebody is blown up. Bobby Summers speaks in the book about holding his friend as his friend dies in his arms. During COVID, I had Zoom calls with these guys. I had 2-3 hour Zoom calls multiple times and captured their stories, and then I wrote it into the book. Bobby is crying his eyes out, telling me how he's holding his buddy. He literally said, I tried plugging all the holes, but he had more holes in him than I had fingers. And I'm imagining him trying to stop the bleeding, and you know, the guy passes in his arms. The details of the trauma are different. What trauma does to you, in my very unprofessional experience, I'm not a psychologist or a doctor, but I feel like what it does to you is the same. When I interviewed 5 veterans, 4 police officers, men and women, all a whole bunch of different trauma, what I discovered was that the effect on you is essentially the same. There's some version of guilt, whether survivor's guilt or I should have done this better or what if I did this different, is all that like looking back. Then there's the feeling of aloneness, like nobody knows what I'm thinking. I remember speaking to one female who got into a shooting in New Jersey, and she was like, randomly, I would just smell gunpowder and it would scare the hell out of me. And when she got into a group of other officers that had been in shootings, they were like, oh yeah, we experienced the same thing. Those responses, what I found is they're basically the same for everybody, and we feel alone. What I was hoping was that the book would reveal common threads, so that if you read a chapter, let's say you're a veteran and you picked a veteran chapter and you read it, you might be like, oh, I feel exactly the same way. I know that this guy, I had a veteran who lost his leg in a motorcycle accident and wasn't overseas. It's like, if you lost your leg in combat, you're still going to have these shared threads of biological and mental responses to that trauma, and hopefully the shared threads of recovery, the things that they had to do across all 9 stories in order to recalibrate, take their compass of their life and repoint it towards a better direction. It's never always going to be perfect. The things that they all had to do were very similar. The hope is that if somebody was struggling and they read a chapter, the first feeling that they would have is, oh, I'm not alone. Somebody else has been through this, and maybe there are some things in their story that I can do, like taking up fitness, finding good people in your life, discovering new purpose. I can do those things, and maybe I will start the healing process. And that was kind of the goal of the book. And the realization I had when it was kind of finished was that we're all the same. We all want the same things. And nothing that's happened to you hasn't happened to somebody else. And that's not to say that you're not special. What it is to say is that you can recover and you can take steps forward. We just had a member of my unit commit suicide.
I'm sorry.
I mean, like a couple of months ago.
Yeah, wow.
Just happened.
Yeah.
17 years in the Coast Guard and a police officer in Bradenton, Florida. And he was struggling. And, you know, for whatever reason, he didn't get enough help or didn't tell enough people. And maybe he didn't feel like he could.
Right.
And it's such a shame because that reaching out is, you can't force somebody to reach out, but that's the first step and it's the most important step. And I think the blocker is people think they're alone.
Yeah.
And they're not. That's out. If somebody was watching this and they felt alone, you're not alone. Somebody else feels what you're feeling. The same way you bond in law enforcement and in military, you can also bond with that trauma when you've had something really terrible happen to you and you're really, really struggling.
Right.
And that was the biggest impact by far of all those stories.
Thank you for sharing that. I like how you explained that through the threads of suffering and silence. We as first responders do it all the time. I'm guilty of it myself. We're the helpers. I don't need help until it's already too late. I'm speaking as me and also the first responder community. I know we're doing a better job of it now. It's being addressed now, but it's just get over it and drive on and go to the next call or get to the next mission, whatever it may be. And it's such a shame because once you realize you do unpack or you do reach out, there are similar stories. I've gone through peer training, and not to throw anybody out there, but as the younger officer that it discloses something that's going on, I'm like, wow, I remember I went through something similar about 10 years ago. Thank you for telling me that. Now I can share my experience with you and how I got through it. Yes, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and to see their eyes go, really? I'm like, yeah, really? I never knew that about you. I'm like, well, I don't always say this, but yes, I experienced this, and this is how I got through it, and you'll get through it as well, and you'll be better because of it and at the outcome of it as well.
We need to be more transparent, and we need to be more authentic. You know, we just had this member commit suicide, and what happens? It's like you get an email. It's like, hey, if anybody's feeling lonely, reach out. And I don't mean to denigrate it, but it's so administratively a response. Here's a pamphlet. Here's an email. You'll read the first 2 sentences and then go, I'm not reading the rest of this. Yeah. It feels very much like CYA. And I'm not saying that that's what it is. It's just how it feels. And I would say that what we really need to do to be better at this is to bring in more people and share more real stories. If I were running a unit, I'd be looking for a speaker to come in and speak at my all hands meeting, or I would share a podcast or a book. I would try and do something more real and more authentic than sending out the Coast Guard's latest policy on suicide prevention. You know what I mean? I know you mean well, but to have somebody stand in front of you, Bobby vividly describes attempting to commit suicide, the thought process and what he was going to do. To hear that story and then to hear where he is today with his business and his family, that's the story that impacts people far more than the memo that gives you the 1-800 number. Not that you don't need the number. If I could do more positive change, it would be those real stories. Right. The person willing to be authentic, honest, transparent, and vulnerable, which is something police officers and first responders don't want to be. So when you find that guy or girl, put them in front of people and let them speak.
I agree with you. And you're sharing your stories here now, and I guarantee you're touching someone that is going through something right now or maybe going through something. And I appreciate the fact that you're willing to open up and share your experiences. And I know physical fitness is what you pride yourself on, getting through endorphins, the struggle of weights or whatever it may be, actually gets you to perform, to get to your purpose. And you did that as well by opening your own gym, correct?
I did. That was the first business that I started when I left law enforcement. Opened up a gym, had a thin blue line around the wall of the whole gym. We started our own charity, my wife and I, with a couple of veterans and police officers. Fitness has been the focal point of the charity. I think it's the easiest and the first step that people can take towards healing, for sure.
with opening a gym and going back into the Coast Guard and still serving. What other adventures are you a part of? I see you have your Finanthem shirt on. I hope I said that correctly. But explain that. Give us a update on what's going on now.
It's fan of them. So
sorry.
It's like a play on the words. I'm a fan of them. We work with YouTubers. We partner with them. We do giveaways and sweepstakes. I think our unique selling prop, the unique thing about our company is we give essentially half of the revenue that we make to our YouTube partners, allowing them to live a life, because YouTube doesn't offer 401k and a health plan, and they don't offer days off, and it's quite difficult. And, you know, we all love YouTube. Anytime something in your house breaks, you go to YouTube to find out how to fix it.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of unique about our company. We give about half of our revenue to our partners to help them continue building their channels.
Gotcha. And I apologize on mispronouncing that. Fan of them. I love it.
Yeah, it's been really good for us.
Nice. So in closure, we have had a great interview, Eric, and I appreciate you again coming on the show and being vulnerable and explaining your experiences and situations with first responders and experiences through others that you've shared as well. But I may have forgot to ask a question, or I may have jogged your memory on something that you would like to touch on. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us right now? The floor is yours.
One of the questions you said you might ask is about the charity, and if there was something particularly impactful. That there's one thing, and I thought about it when I was talking about what would you do for suicide prevention. I would bring somebody up and have them speak. A program we started in New Jersey that I would love to restart in Florida is we worked with the Marine Corps recruiting office. The Marines have this poolee program. You're a high school senior and you sign up in January and you're going to ship in August. Between January and August, you go in a poolee program, and the Marine Corps meets once a month, and they start the camaraderie building right then and there. You all wear the Marine Corps shirt and you do PT, and there's like the whole atmosphere. They really try to prep the kids for boot camp better than I've seen any other branch. And my favorite thing to do with my charity was we would bring in 2 or 3 veterans or police officers with life experience. We would fly them into New Jersey and host a 3 or 4 hour session, which was essentially like a 4-hour session, but it was 4 hours, 3-4 hours of PT, of running, of team building games. You know, we take them to a lake in the winter and have them do flutter kicks in the freezing cold lake. A lot of that fun military boot camp stuff that you hate in boot camp, but you love when you leave boot camp. And I just think that was such a great program. I would love to see that expanded with other military branches and restarted here in Florida. It gave veterans and police officers who were retired or who had left, who really missed that connection, it allowed them to stay connected, not only to the military, but to the future of the military. So the future leaders, the next generation, it allowed them to be a mentor, to speak of their stories. The feedback that I got from the mostly children, they're mostly 16 and 17-year-old kids. You had your occasional older 20-something that would sign up for the Marines, but mostly high school kids. The feedback was better than I could have imagined, because it was an opportunity for them to learn from, you know, a couple of these guys are amputees that served in combat. And it was an opportunity for them to see, feel, touch, hear somebody that is where they want and had done what they want to do. I feel it was such a great program, and I would love to start that back up again in Florida. I've moved to Florida from New Jersey, and I'd love to get other branches involved because it was free. The feedback from both the cadre and the recruiters who participated and from the recruits was really impactful. Maybe the most fun thing that I've done and the thing I'm most proud of, for sure.
Gotcha. I love that. It's the give and take. You've got the retired guy coming back in, sharing experiences to rejolt that experience, and still blessing the up and comers. They get to feed off of each other. It's a nexus right there. Both are absorbing each other's energy, and the retired guys get to feel the camaraderie again. The new guys get to see what it's like, learn the experience, find mentors, ask about the life, ask about trainings. It sounds interesting. So if anyone was out there that wanted to watch that program come to fruition, what would you tell them to start it up or get in contact with you or help out the charity itself?
Our charity is Stay Safe. Stay safe is something police officers say to each other, you know, when they pass each other, you know, hey, like, stay safe, you know, you got it's a dangerous job. And so that's where the name comes from. And you go to the website and contact me, and anywhere in the country, we'll go anywhere in the country. I have veterans and police officers waiting for the next event. Unfortunately, with recruiters, they do a 3 or 4 year cycle and then they're out. and it's got to be up to the next guy to continue the program. And I'm waiting for that recruiter that wants this program again. My dream, if I could sell fan of them at some point and have the money, I would love to start this all over the country and really be a place where kids that want to serve can get to start serving on the right foot, get that experience early.
I love it. So I'm going to make sure that this is going to be posted in the description. It'll be in the comment section as well. And the website will be there for both description comments or the label. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'll have it scrolling as well. Therefore, there's no reason why you can't reach out and do your part of the first responder community, whether you're retired or rookie. There's experiences that need to be had. Thank you. Thank you for that, Charity. Thank you for everything and coming on the show, Eric. I truly appreciate it.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, make sure you check out the book. Make sure you check out his websites. Make sure you look into him on social media platforms and the people that he highlights and the businesses and pages that he highlights as well, because it is necessary. And we're just humanizing the badge and moving the needle forward. Thank you all for tuning in. You guys have a good one. And that is the interview, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I learned a lot just from having a conversation with him. So just actually sitting here and absorbing the conversation that we already had previously, I'm relearning it again. And I wish I had him here now so I could ask further questions and dive a little deeper. So but there were a lot of good takeaways. What do you got? What are your thoughts on that? Put that in the comment section if you can. There's a lot of good takeaways from the experience, from servitude, for burnout, for the depression leading into PTSD, leading into self-deletion and giving back, and the cyclic effect on quote unquote old timers coming back for the new generation wanting to get into the field and get the give and take. It's a wonderful idea. I think he's got a lot of good things at play for the first responder community, and I hope he flourishes, and I love to see him thrive through that. All right, and I hope you guys do as well. Make sure you guys check his channels out. Make sure you guys go ahead and order his books. Get that information out there and share it amongst yourselves, especially now in the world that we're in today. We've had a lot of tragedy make the national news in these past couple days, the stabbings and shootings and Lord knows whatever else. And it's such a shame to be at such a divide, especially at a moment like this, because this was a moment that rocked the nation on 9/11, but then it also brought us back even stronger around that time. So I hope that through all the tragedies that we're going through as a nation, that we're able to find some sort of common ground to understand the core of the human being, the purpose of the person is generally the same. And if we could actually get on the same page and work on the same core, we can accomplish way more tremendous things, as opposed to always being individualistic and divisive, division taking a hold of us, and always division destroys, is destroying slowly. That you see the outcomes of that. So I hope we can get reframed, recompassed back on the right page into the right direction is what I'm trying to say. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we got a special month going for us. Thank you for tuning in. Black and Blue is going to be coming to us. I said I have an event on 9/11, the day itself, that I will be participating in. So hopefully I will be able to share that experience with all of you. If you have any questions or comments, get them in the comment section. Make sure you tag, like, share, subscribe. Let me get that banner going because I did forget. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I know I did. We're going to continue on moving the needle forward. Take care of yourselves. This is the Black and Blue. The podcast is just for you. We go live weekly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And when we go live with the guests that's a first responder or in law enforcement. And we're talking about their trainings, experiences, and their publications. Doesn't matter if they're rookies, seasoned or retirees, and we're going to continue moving the needle forward and humanizing the badge. You all take care of each other. 10-4, over and out.
Sergeant Be Safe is inviting you to watch this exciting and fun podcast, Black and Blue. It airs weekly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's just for you. When we go live with a dynamic law enforcement officer or first responder, whether they're rookie, seasoned, or retiree. We talk about their trainings, experiences, and their publications. We've had tremendous guests already, and we have many, many more tremendous guests coming down the pipeline. You want to subscribe.
Sergeant Be Safe is here.
Black and Blue is on various podcasts, especially on YouTube, so make sure you guys subscribe. And don't forget about me, Sergeant Be Safe. I have my own channel too, so make sure you subscribe to that as well. We have many adventures, learning experiences, and we have fun while we do it. You guys don't want to miss it. Not only with the special guests being featured, you'll see video skits of me and the bad guys, Rob You Blind, Misdemeanor, Treacherous Tony, Chance Wilder, aka Wild Chance, and Sapphire Steel. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
Black as you is, there's a whole lot of blue still shining through.
Just the facts, ma'am.
I'm not a bad cop.
I never once said you were. It would be real simple if the problem was bad cops. It ain't.